Yeah, so I believe this will be our lecture 2, and things that we're going to cover in this lecture as follows. We're going to cover about variables, constants, data types, input and output, comment and escape sequences. So I'm sure I'm going to try my best to make sure that you understand what they mean and what they are all about, and I'll try to write some syntax so that at least you can have that, or you can at least imagine how they look like. Okay, so we'll start by defining what a variable is. Let me just zoom in so that it can be visible. Okay, so a variable is a named memory location used to store data. What do I mean by that? So a variable is like oh, int age. Sorry, put age is equals to 44. Yeah. So in this case, the age, this is our variable. This is our variable. What we have done here is we have created the variable with a data type int, which is an integer, and then we have assigned the value. So it's more like a memory. Think of it like a container, and then there is something inside. A container is a variable, and then what is inside it can be cooking or water. Then that is the value that we have. So that's all about variables. So now let's talk about how we can name a variable. So when naming a variable in C+, there are some rules that we follow. Because I believe that each and every programming has rules when it comes to variables. So one of the rules for variables, varied name. What do I mean by varied name? Varied name, what I mean is, like, let's say you are trying to write a student name. You are trying to write a variable or the name of someone in the program. You can't come up with, like, let's say you write student and then student and you put age. Student age. You get it, age, you even put feature. Yeah, it will learn, but in our actual sense, when you're trying to do you're trying to read the program, when someone just open this, will be confused. Oh, let me take it to this side. I put the name, let's say John, so that so it looks great. So to candidate. So in this case, when a programmer open your file, what is going to think is like, but how come student age, but here is the name? This means that it will be difficult to think like a programmer to understand what you are trying to say. Sometimes the computer, it might even take long, like, to display the output. And then marks, total marks, by the using, instead of directories, instead of combining the two, then you can also use the case snake. What do I mean by case snake? Why you introduce underscore and then you put name. Then this is one of the way of you can write a variable. And then the other one is whereby you can combine it with a number. Let's say you have a lot of student names, so you can write it like student underscore name, and you input 2, and then they flow like that. This will help us to identify that, oh, this is student 2, this is student 1, this is student what. And then the other one is up by avoid invalid name. Invalid name. What do I mean by invalid name? Starting with a number. Although you can use it, you can use numbers in naming the variable, but you cannot start with a number like this. You can even see automatically the let down, which is an error. This is an error. In this case, this one, it is an error. When you try to run it, we'll see when you start learning the program. When you see what I meant by that. The program won't run. Like, let's say, avoid using, let's say, you're using like student name, student, space. This one, it means like you have two variables. So the computer sometimes it's even difficult for a compiler to compile the code, because so try to think which one of these is which. And then the fruit, by, let's say, you can't use C plus a keyword like float, string. So these float, they have functions that were used in C programming. So the moment you just introduce these, then it like you are trying to use a function that has been built in C programming, or understand more when what is more data type, so that you can see that this is one of the keywords in C++, and then also a string. Because that's all about the variables. Let me delete it. So what's it data? Now we go to data type so that we try to understand. So a data type tells the computer what kind of information a variable will store. For example, it can be numbers, characters. It can also be my decimal values, decimal values. It can also be my Boolean, which is true or false. Yeah, something like this. So these are the types of data types that we have. These are some of the data types that we have. We have numbers, which can be in terms of float. So a float is the whole number. Which float stands for integer. It can be a number, either a negative or a positive. So when you are writing, let's say the data type for float, let me just try to put this in comment so that comment, yeah. So let's say I'm trying to assign h, and then I want my data to be an integer. So I start with a data type which is an int, and then I write h is equals to, let's say it can be 21, 27 in this case, that's what I'm using. So what I've done here is I've assigned age to 27. Every time that I want to use 27, I can just call h, then 27 will come out. When this is a data type, which means this age, the data that is stored, is in form of an integer. It is in form of an integer. So this can be also be in terms like negative. There's no harm with that. It can also be positive, like the way I've written, but h can't be negative. Then we also have my float. So my float, this is a type of data that is in form of a decimal point. And decimal point, what I mean is to make only have let's say 1 or 2 decimal points. So float, when I put, let's say, temperature in here. So temperature can be, let's say, 9.5 or 9.567. So this kind of data that I've created, it is in form of a float. The variable is this temperature. Temperature is a variable, and then the data that I've stored is 2.9. And what type is it? What is the type of this data type? This data type is in form of a float, which is 9.57 is in form of a float. Then we also have so let's say, for example, you want to use something with a lot of decimal places, like you want your data to be more precise, like to be more accurate. What I mean, to be more accurate. That's why now we use this kind of data type, which is double ratio pi. It has more decimal places, by the way, so it can be too many decimal places, but it can't have 2 or more decimal places, but it can only have main. So for example, it can start like this 1.3333 or 1.11 3.1111. Yeah. So this kind of data type, we call it a double, and then this variable is a pi. So every time that I want to use this data type, we just have to go pi, and then these would display. So that's all about data type. And then let's talk about characters. So I'm done with my hints up. So now I go to characters. So in characters, that's where we have string and the character itself. And I put strings. Yeah. Strings. Yeah, strings. The character. And then I start a new line. Then I put character. So when we're writing the character, there's no way you can write the whole character. Like you put character. The only thing that you can do is just to put the way like I've put car, and then you assign the data that you want of a variable. A variable. So in this case, we're going to put a variable to be read. To be the data. So it's going to be, we use my single letters or my single quotes, which is here. Yeah, something like this. Then it is this kind of data is called the character. For strings, when I'm using my string, you just put my double quote. Then this kind now I've changed it to string. So what's a string is? A string, this is a type of data that is in form of letters or text. That's what I mean by with strings. And then let's talk about my booleans. Booleans. Let me just put somewhere here. Booleans. So when we're dealing with my booleans, what we do is just write the weight of this character. Then you put your variable, which can be, let's say, age. In my case, we'll assign it to true. Then what we have done, this, we have created a boolean. And then this age, the moment we just call age, then this has to be printed out, which is true. That's all about data type and variables.